far down as we go. So this video is just like a little bit about myself, where I'm from, just a little bit about my childhood. I can't really remember too much of it, so I'll just give you a little brief explanation of it all. And just pretty much introducing myself to those of you who don't really know me too well. First of all, my name's Luther. Lovely to meet you if I've never met you formally or in person. So I'm from South Africa. I came over here when I was 9 years old. I don't really have too much of South Africa to share with you. I don't have a very clear memory of everything that happened in my childhood. I have memory of, the good times and certain things that happened throughout my childhood, but I don't actually have a crystal clear memory of every exact thing that happened, so I can't really dig in deep and give you, bit for bit. So I'll just touch on it a little bit, give you the majors, give you some of the good times we had. So I was born in a little town called Bloemfontein, right? So it's I guess you could call it a country town. It's not like a major city. It's probably, it's south from Johannesburg. I don't know how far away. I haven't really looked into it too much. It doesn't all matter to me all that much, so don't judge. So I was born in Bloemfontein, and then I was raised in a little town called Reddersburg. So it's another small little country town where we lived. I lived with my mum and my dad and my nana. My nana was in a separate house, but I'd always pretty much just end up there and staying with her. And she'd be the one to pick me up from kindy when I used to just have a sook and not want to go to school. So, shot nana. My mum owned her own doctor's surgery back in South Africa. Dad was still working, mum was still working at the surgery, but dad was doing the accounting for my mum. So, it was a pretty tight little run operation. South Africa is definitely not the best place to raise kids. I know some of you probably have heard stories or you've heard of other people tell you the same thing. Yeah, it's true. It's a fucking shit place. Mind my language, but it's good for like a holiday. Go there for a holiday. Still be safe, but yeah, it was definitely no place to raise a child. I pretty much grew up around 6-foot concrete fences, security gates, and 2 guard dogs. Because of the reason being there is a lot of crime. We were borderline with a section of poverty that they call shanties. So it's just a bunch of man-made houses made of tin. You've probably seen it in some of the movies or heard about it. It's a big race thing over there. I'm not going to touch on it too much. It's a pretty sensitive topic, but I'm not a racist at all. Some of my childhood friends were dark-skinned kids, and I grew up with them. We used to hang out, we used to play. Their mum and dad used to work with us on our house, and yeah, things are sweet. I'm sweet. But other people over there are heavily racist, and they wonder why they're in the position they are in. Yeah, like I said, that's as far as I'm going to go into it. Everyone will have mixed opinions about it, but that's my personal experience from there. I can't really tell you anything else because, like I said, I have a very vague memory of my childhood. A little backstory into why that is. Well, majority of the reason is because of what I've put myself through, and other reasons like some concussions that have happened to me over the past 10 years, I'm going to say 10 years, have slowly started chipping away at my memory, and it's only actually been evident to me once I've sat there and thought about, trying to remember shit, and I'm like, I should remember that, but I can't, so just give up, move on, make new memories. It's gotten way better, but there's still large sections of my life that are a bit of a blur. So yeah, but anyway, enough of that. I spent majority of my time with my nana. She pretty much I'd say she raised me for a fair chunk of my life. Mum was always working. Dad was also working with my mum. I come from a pretty disciplined childhood. I don't know if any of you have heard any stories about schooling back in South Africa, but yeah, we still got the cane in like grade one. So, and that still hasn't changed over there. Look, it's done its work. I went through a shit stage as a kid, so does everyone, but I turned out alright. All the discipline and respect that you get taught definitely reflected through me in everything that I did up until now. And all the martial arts and stuff that I got myself into just helped. Anyway, back to my life in South Africa. I tend to like hop off topic, so I'll try my best to actually stay on topic. I have two sisters. Only one of them was actually born in South Africa. She is 5 years younger than me. So, yeah, she was still a very much a baby when we moved over here. I used to have this one friend that I would hang out with all the time. His name's Vickers. He actually ended up moving over to Australia as well. Funny story. Wild. Can't get away from the kid. But his whole family actually moved over here. Same reason. Shit place to raise a kid. Pretty much a whole nother story just explaining South Africa, but I'll skip it. Just stick to my childhood. So that's probably as much as I can tell you from there, to keep it nice and short so I don't drag out into unnecessary information. So when we moved over here, we lived in the city for a bit in Milton. But that lasted probably a good month until my mum couldn't handle it anymore because she hates living in one, suburbia, and two, high rises. So we split pretty much straight away. She just sort of followed where her work was. So she scored a good opportunity with a company over here, and then they sort of just shifted it from place to place. So we went from Milton to Forest Lake, where I started primary school at Grand Avenue State School. I was there for about a year, and then we split. We moved to Jimboomba. It's sort of semi-rural, not too rural, like you're not too far away, but you're not too close to the city, so it was perfect for my mum. We were still renting at this point, so nothing crazy happened at home. I'd go to school. I went to Flagstone Primary School. I went there from grade 4 to graduated primary school there. We lived on like 20 acres out there. I got started into horse riding pretty early age, so probably when I was around 7 or 8, still over in South Africa. Mum threw me on a horse because that's my mum's. She loves horses. That's her passion. That's her release. That's her happy time. Yes, I can still ride a horse. How long has it been since I've ridden a horse? Probably like 3 or 4 years, at least, since I've actually sat on a horse. Since I've sat on a horse, it's probably been like a year, but actually went for a ride. Been a while. I'd say probably more than 4 years. I sort of grew out of it. I didn't see the serenity in it or the release in it. It wasn't sort of my thing at the time, so I slowly grew out of it. I started leaning more into full contact sports. Yeah, full contact sports. I don't know where else I was going with that. That was like my thing. I loved it. I started kickboxing, pretty much Muay Thai, when I was about 14 at a gym in Ormo. And that was pretty much, that's where my life will revolve around until I was like 19, nearly 20. We'll get into that in a little bit. So once I finished primary school, I started high school at Tamborine Mountain College. And we also moved from Jimboomba to Tamborine because we bought some property out there. Mum bought 43 acres. That's where majority of my dad's time was spent, was working on that property. Now, don't get confused. I'm using dad, even though I mentioned before he's my stepdad. Reason being, so I don't know my real dad. He left when I was about 2, so he was never in the picture. He dipped. Doesn't affect me. I don't care. He was heavily schizophrenic, but he pretty much had an affair on my mum, and then just sort of went crazy and just went downhill. And there was a stage where he was out to get us. Like, he was out to get me and my mum, and, well, I guess my family, because I didn't want to stay with him. So that's also part of the reason we left, was to get away from all that. So anyway, that's why I just call my stepdad Dad, because he's been there since day dot. He's done all the hard work. He's been there for me. I don't really consider my real dad as a dad. Never met him. Doesn't really represent what a dad would be. So I'm not gonna sit here and label my stepdad as my stepdad, or some people call their stepdad by their first names, and that was always like a spin out to me, and it was always like heavily disrespectful. Like, I don't agree with it. You do what you want, but that's not me. It's wildly disrespectful to a man who's taken it on board to father someone else's children. Seeing that from an older perspective makes even more sense why I always hated the idea of it. And I still don't agree with what people call their stepdad, but you do you. That's just my opinion. So that clears up why I call him my dad. Where was I? Oh yeah, high school. I took the typical emotional kid approach to high school. I had real long black hair. I went through a pretty heavy metal stage. As heavy as you could think, pretty much. I was always a very emotional teenager. I've got my own issues. I have a slight bit of depression that I used to suffer from. I've tried not to put a label on it, because I've realised that once you put labels on things, you like subconsciously become that label. And for a long period there, I'd always just label myself as, it's my depression. It's because I'm depressed. And like, no wonder I wasn't getting any better. Because that's literally everything. It's just what I'd fall back on every single time. If something bad happened, or if something happened that was my own fault, I'd fucking jump straight to, it's my depression. It's because I'm depressed. Because once you can detach yourself from a certain label and actually not identify yourself as that, things will change. And it's a shame I actually only learnt this with a different perspective as I'm older, because it definitely would have helped me out back in the days when everything was just someone else's fault. Anyway, back to the story. So when I started kickboxing when I was 14, that was always a passion for me. I used to watch UFC all the time. I went for a bit of a WWE stage, but that only lasted like a little bit. I grew out of that real quick when you realise that it's fake. It's not fake, some of it's real, but come on. It's not all that real. Not compared to 5-5s in an octagon with 4-ounce gloves. Then it's fake. But anyway, I started kickboxing when I was 14. I slowly progressed for that year. I think I spent about a year there until I formally met the neighbour that's living next to where my mum and dad's property is in Tamborine. He was one of the senior trainers at another club called Black Dragon Kai Combat Systems. And I met him one afternoon, and he offered to pretty much take me to the club for a trial night. And honestly, at that time, it worked out better for me. It worked out better for my dad that used to have to drive me every afternoon to Ormo. So ever since then, I was off. So at his every day, 5:30 on the dot. You know why? I learned a very valuable lesson. Early is on time, because if I was there like a minute past 5:30, I wouldn't be training. I'd be sitting there with my bags wondering where he is, because he said 5:30. If you weren't there at least 5:20, 5:25, and you weren't ready, that's tough shit. That's just one of the lessons you learn. Early is on time. Definitely helped me out with a lot of things in life, and I encourage you to do the same. Just be early to everything. It's technically, it works out. It's on time. Early is on time. So pretty much ever since I started there, I went from not only practicing Muay Thai, but I actually picked up 2 other martial arts. So I started doing MMA, and then I started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu pretty much all by the time I was 15. So it was pretty much like 3 hours a night of training. That happened for probably, like 6 months, until everything started sort of progressing a little bit quicker. I started doing some comps. I think I started doing some tournaments. I started doing the karate class as well. So I started picking up some other things, some other skills, and a few gradings later, and probably a year afterwards, I was getting ready to fight. Like, I was starting fight prep to jump in the ring for the first time, and this was like unbelievable to me, because I didn't realize that all this would be happening so quickly. But that's what happens when you have a passion for something, and the drive, and that young energy of just not stopping. Now, that also has its downfalls, because I didn't treat injuries as I was meant to treat them. I didn't take my recovery as serious as I should have taken it. What, 4 years later, fast forward, I was certified my crew certificate, so I was a trainer. I was a Muay Thai trainer. I was teaching my own classes at Yatla, so I was teaching MMA and Muay Thai to kids and adults for about 2 hours on Tuesdays and Thursday nights, and then I pretty much travelled to Jimboomba to do all my fight prep, because at the time I was probably preparing for a fight. It took me a lot of places. It taught me a lot of lessons. And I think at one stage there I was doing probably around 7 or 8 different martial arts: judo, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, MMA, Muay Thai, karate. Something called kudo, which is like, so full contact karate but with a plastic shield, so you don't fuck your face up. You just get the concussion feelings. And something else. There was another submission arts wrestling type of martial arts. But all this was just experience for, once you jump in the ring. Because you can imagine, if you just practice one thing for a fight, that you need to do multiple things, like wrestle, stand up, cage work, all that sort of stuff, that you're not going to really have that experience in all those different fields if you're just practicing one martial arts. So that was the approach to it, was to be proficient in everything, and it definitely showed. I hadn't lost a single Thai boxing fight, and I've had 4, and I lost one MMA fight out of the 2 that I had. It was on XFC, purely due to a heavyweight cut. I lost probably, it was 16 kilos in a month and a half, and I gassed. I did not have any energy to fight or defend myself for the second round. I got checked out. And I've only had 3 Thai boxing fights. It wasn't 4. I got confused. It was a tournament. But yeah, it's that approach to getting proficient in everything, to be, better at MMA and even Thai boxing, definitely paid off. I loved it. And it's actually taken me to this point in my life, to realize that I used to love doing that, and it definitely ingrained itself in my identity and reflected a lot of my morals, all the hard work, the work ethic I endure today with, my professional job. Everything sort of stems from starting martial arts at that age when I needed it most. The only thing is, I overworked myself. This is the only time when the label of depression sort of probably did have a bit of a heavy effect on my training. See, I was always told to stay away from relationships, just focus on your training, focus on your career. Did I listen to all of that advice? No. I fucking didn't. I went and did whatever I wanted because it was my own person. I wasn't very good at taking advice. I always used to have the saying, my mentor, my trainer told me this, is that the difference between a smart person and a wise person is that a smart person learns from his mistakes, and a wise person learns from other people's mistakes. And I always had this in my head. Did I implement it? No. And it fucking shows, because I had to go through everything myself to learn my own lessons. Is that the best way to be? Depends who you ask, what you went through, most of the shit that I had experienced when I stopped fighting when I was 19, purely due to a little bit of a mental breakdown at the time. I was overloaded with a lot of stress from my job that I started. I went off rails really badly when I was 19, turning 20. Main issue, the main contributor towards it all was, a breakdown of my mental state due to breakups with girls that I took upon myself. I took very personally, and I went down a very dark path. I resorted to drugs. I resorted to alcohol. I went through some silly shit. Did some silly shit. Was not a I was not a very good role model for a few years there. I was not who I wanted to be. I was pretty much going against everything that I told myself not to do. So it's a touchy subject for me, to be honest with you, to be able to actually speak about all this and pretty much relive it to a point, because I just actually spent all this time trying to get over all that shit. I spent a lot of time regretting it all and like thinking you're a fucking idiot, like you're a failure. That has consumed me for a lot of years. It really has. Until you realise that you wouldn't be where you are today if you didn't go through and experience all that shit. And I probably wouldn't have come out the other side with as much experience or with as much exposure to different things if I didn't go down that path and do everything I did and learn shit the hard way. So that's actually, definitely hasn't made me proud of it. Fuck no. But it's made me appreciate the fact that I did do that, because at the end of the day, instead of hating myself for it, I might as well find something to take from it, because like I said, for a long time there, it was consuming me. I was very embarrassed of it. I still am embarrassed of it, but I've accepted it. I have made my apologies to the people I loved that I've hurt. And honestly, if you're one of those people that I hurt, I'm deeply sorry. It's a shame it's taken me this long to sort my shit out, but I'm here. And I can safely say that was a very it was a pretty wild time in my life, and I won't be returning to it. So if I did hurt you, you are one of those people that I haven't spoken to yet or acknowledged. I am deeply sorry for that. You if you knew me before then, you know that that's not me. I was just going through a bunch of shit. So I guess that's the only time where I take back what I said about labeling myself as depressed. I definitely did not do the things that helped my depression. Okay, so I take full responsibility for that. I did not handle it in the way that I should have. It's taken me a while to actually sit here and realize what I want to do with my life. So at the moment, I'm in like my last year and a bit of studies to become an electrician. It's been a pretty rough shot. It's taken me nearly 5 years to get here, purely because of the employment decisions that I made and where I worked. I kept changing fucking employers, and there was a time where me and one of my best mates started a business. We just, at the time things were a bit rough. We butted heads, so we decided, for the best, we'll save the relationship and we will go our separate ways. That was a sick experience. I would not take back anything about it. I loved doing it. It did, however, set me back heavily on my apprenticeship, purely due to the decisions I made and the amount of time I spent on the business instead of actually focusing on my TAFE work. And the only other reason was because I kept changing employers, and then TAFE had to change everything. But I found a pretty solid employer now, and that's pretty much where I'll be spending the rest of my time finishing it. But back to my story, it's taken me this long to realise that that's not actually what I want to do with my life. It's pretty wild, right? I loved coaching and I loved teaching, right? I left all that chasing money, chasing dollar signs, because that was my stress relief at the time when I had all this stress around me that I was inducing to myself. Right? So I was pretty much trying to escape my own problems that I was facing with money. And then, you develop habits and you fall into shit places where you end up spending all this money that you're fucking chasing just to stay above water. And it's just come clear to me that all of that probably would have been navigated around or managed a lot better if I just sticked to doing what I loved and I actually had the ability to see the long-term potential in that line of work, which I didn't at the time because it wasn't paying me as much. So now we're here. I've nearly finished a trade and I've realised that I used to teach and coach and fight because I fucking loved it. And I'm not gonna lie, I thought I lost love for it for a while there, which I probably did for a little bit. I still always, missed it and wanted to go back, but I trained a lot and trained hard and pretty much based my whole life around training, teaching, going to competitions, helping run competitions, and I didn't take any time to myself. Okay, I just sort of drowned myself in everything to do with martial arts. And I'm not going to say that didn't take a toll on me. Honestly, it probably did. And that probably is why I sort of strayed away from it for a little bit. But I just strayed off into the wrong places. I can safely say that I'm starting to, come back to the idea of going back, working my way out, get back into training. Am I going to fight again? I don't know. I am sort of venturing in a bit of a different sport at the moment. I recently started my journey into the fitness world of bodybuilding and personal training. I've actually just signed up for a set 3 and 4 in fitness. So I should commence that in September, which will pretty much help me along my path of going back to coaching. I feel like it'll give me a bit of an edge, and it's another line of work that I've sort of always had a passion for, but like I said, I chased other things. I didn't know my purpose back then, which is another thing that I'll touch on before we end the video. So yeah, studying a set 3 and 4 fitness. Hoping to be a coach one day doing that. But at the moment, the only reason why I haven't actually started back training yet is one, because I'm currently going on a bit of a journey to experience another sport, which is bodybuilding. I'll be competing in 19 weeks. We've actually just started pulling the trigger on prep yesterday. So it's day 2 out of 19 weeks. Feeling pretty good. I just know sort of my partner has actually competed in bodybuilding before, Haley. So she's sort of given me a little insight of what I'm in for. So I'm excited though. I actually initially had the idea of trying it, just wanted to see what it's like. And I've always heard everyone talk about the amount of shit you put yourself through or to look the way you look on stage. And I tried to relate it to fight prep, which is, physically enduring, like it's physically demanding, but you don't fucking starve yourself for weeks on end. So I was very intrigued on how that all works and, how you actually get down to looking like you do on stage. So we'll see how we go. After I finish doing that, we'll determine whether I do another one or, slowly work my way back into fighting. One thing that I actually really do want to get back into is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, because I don't know if anyone doesn't really have too much of an idea of what that is. It's ground wrestling, so you're wearing a gi, and majority of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coaches or practitioners will tell you that it becomes a way of life to them, purely because it makes you feel good. It keeps you in shape. Wrestling is a lot fucking harder than you think. 5 minutes, it's like a blue belt time, and then once you move up levels, you go like 6 minutes, 7 minutes, 8 minutes, and when you're actively wrestling someone who's good at what they do, you end up getting pretty fucking tired. And the only thing I can relate it to is bouldering. So like rock climbing, your forearms. That's how you'll feel after your first wrestle of like continuous working. And a lot of it, you tend as you level up or as you progress in the sport, you actually learn that you don't have to go hard every time all the time. If you actually take your time and just work through the flow of things, you will learn a different side of the art, which is the side I'm talking about, which is the side that I love. Um, yeah, so that's one of the reasons why I want to get back into that, because it's good for you and it's good for your mental being. Yeah. What else? So my purpose. So recently I started doing a bit of self-development work with a community called Set the Standard. They specialise in a lot of deep work, inner work, self-development work, personal growth. And I have to say, like, the last week and a bit, I haven't had too much attendance. And it's been eating me up. I feel pretty shit about it. But to be honest with you, like, I used to just say, fuck man, I just haven't had the time. And, in the past, I probably have had the time. I just didn't know how to prioritize it. But in the past week and a half, like honestly, I haven't actually had the time to attend the things that I should have attended, like calls at 6 o'clock, purely due to work. I was working long hours, and then by the time I come home, I don't have a few hours to eat. Sometimes I train, and then I have to be in bed so I can get enough sleep to wake up early and feel good the next day. And I've sort of just been busy with life. I'm just going to say that much because there's a whole heap of shit that I've been trying to work on behind the scenes. This week's sort of my first week where I can actually get back into it and do a bunch of the work. But awesome community. Like I've come so far in the past 3 weeks. I'm making a video of myself speaking, and I'm about to post it on YouTube and to multiple other platforms. This was always one of those things where I was like, fuck, I'd love to do that one day. That'd be cool. If I hadn't started this community, this would always still be a thing where I'm like, I'll try that one day. It's just that push, and there's a bunch of exercises. So there's 12 weeks. Right, I'm probably about 3 weeks in now. I've got a bit of catching up to do, but it's fine. This is what I've been. So this is my point. I've felt like I haven't progressed in the past 3 weeks because I haven't actively been, attending the calls or, putting as much time in the modules as I wanted to. But I'm sitting here speaking to a camera, recording myself. I'm making my own solo podcast. I've been, slowly building myself up. I recorded myself in the gym the other day. I just have to edit it and post it. That I'm sort of procrastinating on because there's just a couple of things that I need to change. But this is going online. Everyone's going to see it. And it wouldn't have been possible if I didn't join this community. I didn't get the support from everyone in the community, and I didn't start taking action on doing the things that I've always talked about doing, but never done it. Because I don't have a lot of confidence in myself when I speak. So I always felt like what I had to say was said already, or no one's going to value it, or I was too uncomfortable to post it because I didn't feel like I was competent enough to give advice, or I wasn't confident within my own advice to know that it would actually benefit someone else. That's still something I'm trying to overcome, but I'm working on it. It's evident. But yeah, I have made a lot of progress in the past 3 weeks. Way more than I ever thought I would. So, a bit of a shout out to them. And if you feel like that's the path that you want to follow and you want to dive into a lot more self-work or personal development work, jump online, look it up. I can't really put into words how it affects you or how it changes you. It's something you have to experience yourself because it's different for everyone. But, like I said, I'm sitting in front of a camera talking to it and I'm about to post it on YouTube, which has always just been one of those things where you're like, oh yeah, that'd be cool. But I'm actually doing it. So, yeah, that's it's gonna be that's gonna be a wrap. There's probably fucking heaps more that I could have touched on. Mama language. Don't really care, but just mind it. It's just me. Like I said, there's probably heaps that I probably could have touched on, but we're just gonna call it there. This will also be in a podcast, so if you don't have time to watch a video, listen to that bad boy. I'll be making a couple more solo episodes. I've actually been challenged to make 100 podcast episodes before the end of the year because something I didn't know is anything up to 100 is just practice, and it takes a different type of thinking to realize that that's actually applicable in a lot of other things in life that you probably think are scary. Like the first 10, first 20 are probably like scary. I know I fucking still had that thought when I was recording with Haley, because we were recording podcasts, and I was like, in my own head, I was like, fuck man, I am not entertaining. No one's gonna like this. Why do I sound like that? Why are you doing stupid shit? And then you realize some people have like 120, 150 podcasts minimum, and they are killing it right now because they have gone through all those things. They've learnt what they don't do and what they have to do. So, a little bit of my word of advice as well that I've been given by other people in the community. Just do it. I know that sounds daunting as fuck. Trust me. I know. I was like sat here in my head. I was like, just do it. Yeah, just do it. And you won't realize how easy it is until you just do it. So, thank you. See you later.